Stave 7, an improbable escape. The holding cell was crammed with the nobility and cream of many who had prospered in the ancien regime, along with innocents and thieves and tarts in push-up bras, all tossed together, rather like a sad salade niçoise. They heard a woman's voice beyond the cell cry out, "J'accuse!" egged on by beggars, driven mad with grievance, rage and booze, and little Dickens sobbed, his forehead cradled in a palm beside a man composed and preternaturally calm. The boy then wiped his nose upon his sleeve. The gentleman produced a silken handkerchief embroidered with an N. He gave it to the boy, who stammered, "Merci beaucoup." The gentleman said, "Not at all." "Oi, you speak English too," the boy enthused. "You reckon we'll get out of here alive?" "We must," the man returned. "I take my chocolate at 5. "I say," said little Dickens, "you're a gentleman all right. I come to France to learn to be like you lot." "If I might," the gentleman responded, "that may not be worth your while. It looks as if my friends and I are going out of style. You seem familiar, mon ami. What might your name be, pray?" "It's little Dickens," he disclosed. "And yours?" "It's hard to say. I was the Duke de Nonchalant," the gentleman replied. "They've stripped me of my title, and I'm going to be tried." The heavy oaken door flew open with an awful bang, and through the portal poured a mortal, none too sober gang. They shoved the gentleman and little Dickens to the dock, along with 20 others, and the crowd began to mock. Madame Defarge was body surfing in the roiling pit and led her confreres in a monumental hissy fit. The torrent of derision crashed upon the poor accused, who cowered at the onslaught, but the gentleman refused. He faced it like a marble Hercules upon a plinth, unfazed by all the menace of the writhing labyrinth. Though dressed like Elton John en fete at Royal Albert Hall, the Duke had brass cojones, and was not the least in thrall. The judge then struck his gavel, and he cleared a drunken throat. He fumbled with his parchments as he slurred his words. I quote, "The Duke de Nonchalant and his accomplices are charged with crimes against the citizens of France." The crowd enlarged as people from the street pushed in, and one familiar voice cut clearly through the rest. "Napoleon, I've got no choice." "Your Honour," cried the artful dodger, "this here Corsican has cheated me." "You can't," the judge began. "Of course I can. He owes me for a diamond ring I procured for him. He give it to this Josephine, and I'm out on a limb. Now, I'm an honest labourer, a tradesman, if you please. To earn me bread, I shouldn't have to get down on me knees. I ought to be remunerated, compensated, paid, rewarded for me trouble by a tiny profit made. Why, isn't that precisely why you overthrew the king? The blighter bled you white and never give you back a thing?" The crowd began to cheer him on with deafening hurrahs, and sensing victory, he went in for the coup de grace. "I've never been so deeply wronged, Your Honour, as I live. I ask you please to grant me satisfaction from this spiv. But if he strapped for cash," the dodger artfully proposed, "just free me mates up in the dock, and then we'll call it closed." "Release the prisoners," cried an exhausted Bonaparte. "Let's move," the artful dodger rasped, "before we're blown apart." "Mon General," the judge exclaimed, "whatever can this mean? We need to satisfy the hunger of la guillotine." Though only very slightly taller than Toulouse-Lautrec, the general's authority held everyone in check. The dodger, Dickens, and the Duke together fled the scene and vanished like illusionists, their getaway pristine. A certain pair of knitting needles clicked at DEFCON 5. Their mistress swore, "I shall not rest while one is left alive." Stave 8, a bucolic idyll before Le Merde hits Le Fan. A hamper filled with caviar and rich pâtés en croûte along with crystal, silver, and a case of wines to boot, lay open on the fragrant grass of glorious Provence. At last the trio could relax, if only for the nonce. The artful Dodger, flushed with Beaujolais and self-regard, rejoiced at how the court was hoist upon its own petard. The Duke and little Dickens raised repeated toasts on high to him who'd saved their skins and brought them hither on the sly. "But how," asked little Dickens, "did you find us such a feast? It's chaos everywhere, and this cost £20 at least." "I took the money off your purse when we was on that ship." "How green you was in every way. Here, have another nip. You made yourself a proper mark, as juicy as they come. You'd glance about all goosey-like, and then you'd pat your bum, and once them swells had pitched you queasy, Dick, I had my chance. Now mind, I could have ditched you quick and easy here in France." The artful Dodger grinned. "Well, why didn't you?" inquired his friend. "Dunno," he said, the subject at an enigmatic end. "Another clue about this boy," so thought a pensive Duke. "How fascinating that a channel crossing makes him puke." A sudden whip-crack broke the vinous, introspective mood. "Was that?" the Dodger asked, anesthetized by wine and food. A tumbril, pulled by Percherons, was thundering their way, and driven by the driven woman of that fateful day. Thérèse Defarge and 30 dirty hags in wooden shoes, all armed and sympathetic to her sanguinary views, bore swiftly down upon them through the waving waist-high hay, which certainly put paid to any thoughts of creme brulee. Then, captive, bound and double-ironed, old Marley's very words, they squish-squashed unto prison through the barley, mire, and turds. Stave 9, a Christmas peril. The winter wind began to shriek and squeal through ice and snow. "This dump makes the Bastille look like the freaking Fontainebleau," a tipsy guard observed, as 3 unlucky detainees performed excruciating calisthenics, lest they freeze. Despite their harsh incarceration over many moons, the Duke had taught the boys the ways of knives and forks and spoons, of how to take a bow and when to kiss a lady's hand and formulate bon mot while promenading on the Strand. They learned the minuet, the galliard, and the gavotte, and all the rules of chivalry right back to Camelot. And little Dickens took to it as to the manner born. I placed the graces on him, and how easily they are worn, the Duke could not help thinking. Might it be that he, perhaps, if so, well, quelle coincidence, but no, it's shooting craps. December 24th arrived, and with it Christmas Eve. A visitor turned up, and who it was you can't believe. "I've knitted you 3 shrouds," she snarled, "to keep you warm in hell." "Come morning," laughed Madame Defarge, "you die! Joyeux Noël!" she crowed, much like a Chanticleer just given 3 French hens. "One ladybird," the Dodger sneered, "has ought to use the men's." She turned and strode away, a rakish angle to her fez, and sang an Edith Piaf treatment of the Marseillaise. "I don't think she much likes us," little Dickens said at last. The artful Dodger whispered, "Mates, we need a plan, and fast." In time the other prisoners and guards began to snore. Then little Dickens heard a voice, remembered from before. "I made it link by link and yard by yard." Old Marley's ghost. "I had to call, you see. Post-mortem, one can't use the post. So, tell me how you're getting on. I have an hour free." "My word, you might have let a better flat, it seems to me."